and we'll just go down the line. It's going to be a great, great seminar, so please enjoy it, and welcome, Ted.
Thanks, Antonio. What I might do, Antonio mentioned how much he felt that I can't remember what you said, wines of place are what matter or something like that. I wanted to stand up and go, yeah, brother! But, you know, this is a formal tasting, so I refrained from doing so. I do want to say that I do believe that wines should speak for themselves, so I just want to take maybe just a moment to frame geographically what we're tasting a little more specifically. So Antonio alluded to the diversity of this landscape and how few vineyards are actually planted in it. I would also add, for your general knowledge, that there never will be a lot of vineyards planted in this area simply because between steepness of terrain, deep forest, county regulation, that's not going to happen, right? So the growth of the West Sonoma coast will always be very, very slow, and it will never be of the scale of the Russian River or the Willamette Valley. We are approximately 6% of the acreage of the Russian River, so it gives you an idea just how small, in terms of vine acres, this region really is. And the other thing I want to mention is that Antonio did a beautiful job with his team on this map, and there's two colors, right? The lighter color represents the area around the Sebastopol Hills that Antonio is pointing out. And that area, folks, we could not include in the West Sonoma Coast AVA because the gestalt at the TTB at the time was no overlapping AVAs. So the West Sonoma Coast had to lie entirely outside of any Russian River, Green Valley, or any other AVA border, but it could nest within it, and you still can do this other AVAs. So the Fort Ross Seaview AVA, which is much older than the West Sonoma Coast, yeah, it's right about up there. That is entirely nested within. Okay, so nesting is okay, overlapping is not. That is still under, I would say, review and discussion within the TTBs, just so you know. That's the reason for the two different colors on the map. The other thing that I just want to mention very quickly about the West Sonoma Coast, which is really essential, is because there is no single valley here, right? This is a series of small valleys and streams and rivers that penetrate it. It's highly diverse. So what may be going on in Annapolis, which is up the north one year, might be quite different from what's going on around Occidental. Elevation, of course, is an enormous influence. The lower you are, the more you're apt to be in the fog. Fort Ross Seaview, and I hope Jasmine doesn't get mad at me for stealing this line already, but is generally above the fog. Not always, but generally above the fog. It's the highest elevation within the West Sonoma Coast. So I just wanted to give that little sort of framing of the region. And then the other thing I want to mention really quickly, and this is the extraordinary thing about this region, you could stand on the hills in any part of that AVA in 1990, and it was basically unknown for grapes. You were less than 40 miles from the most famous wine region in the United States, and we know nothing about it. About 4 vineyards total in the entire area. And if you put that in context, Oregon, Charles Corey, 1966, Ponzi, Adelsheim, Lett, all of those people in 70. This is a generation later. We don't usually think about that relationship between Oregon and California, but for this region, it's true. So anyway, that's the little background on that. I hope that's helpful. I apologize, Antonio, for the little sidetrack, but maybe that sets the stage a little bit. The vineyard we're tasting is the Haven. You'll notice it's right in the middle of the map there. It's 5 acres of highly diverse soils on it's sort of like, I've never said this before, but it's kind of like a miniature Hirsch, meaning that within this there are 5 utterly different geographic or geologic origins. There's greenstone, which is undersea volcanics. There's schist. There's sandstone. There's Yorkville series. And there's Hugo gravelly loam. So it's quite diverse in a very small area. The way I think about this wine is this is a wine that has sneaky tannin, meaning that your initial impression of this wine is not one of tannic structure, but the tannins build through the palate. And by the time you finish tasting it, I think you're like, oh, there's a lot more tannic structure than I thought there would be in this wine. Planted in 2000. Enjoy it. Thank you.
You, Ted. That's great.